People say this is a hell of a mugshot. Only if you guys really understand and remember what this guy did to a little girl. This is a huge update in the story. We're going to conclude this thing. It's great that we get justice, but it's sad because the children that were suffering in this situation will never get to see this justice, should have never been forced to be in this situation. This angel right here lost her life. So we're going to give you guys a little bit of an overview as to what happened. But ultimately, we're going to give you guys the conclusion, and I might say some stuff that might make you upset depending on if you actually care about kids. If you care about kids, most of what I say ain't going to bother you, right? But I do have to give you a fair warning that some of the details we talk about can be a little bit explicit as far as what actually caused the death of this young child, okay? Let me give you a disclaimer, and then we'll go from there. Some viewers may find the following content offensive and controversial. The information in this video comes from multiple sources, including court records, official police charges, news web articles, and interviews. This video commentary also contains my personal opinions about the facts of this story. The point is to use this story as a cautionary tale in hopes of preventing tragedies like these to children going forward. Viewer discretion is advised. That is your official disclaimer. And the source I'm using today is KansasReflector.com, just because they have two really big detailed articles. So thank you so much for this article. You guys can see the state of this house right here. Let me back that up and just see how in disarray it is outside. But nonetheless, Kansas, Topeka, Kansas, taking a huge L with this one. An attorney representing Michael Cherry, who was this big punk right here, in the rape and murder of a 5-year-old Topeka girl, asserted in a court document Friday that Kansas Child Welfare Agency and the Shawnee County District Attorney's Office missed opportunities to intervene and possibly save her life. Michael Cherry, a former Texas resident who entered a guilty plea. Y'all catch that? Since I got people emailing me talking about they weren't guilty of this and that, even though they were charged. I'm usually talking about charges, but guilt usually comes at the conclusion of a court hearing, right? So in this case, we have a guilty plea that was entered last year to murder and sexual assault charges to avoid the death penalty, confessed to killing Zoey Felix in the October of 2023 at a tent encampment, T-E-N-T, homeless encampment, for those who don't know. A tent encampment used by homeless people. Zoey, again, 5 years old, this little baby, was left in Cherry's care by the girl's father while he was at work. You just let anybody and everybody watch your kids, and this is why you can't. And I know a lot of you guys have heard me say this, and this is why I get so pissed off about people who have kids that cannot financially afford to take care of them. Stop producing kids. Stop having kids. Stop adopting kids. Put your penises and your vaginas up and stop creating these kids, especially when you see that it is not easy to raise them. They are expensive and everything becomes expensive. Let me also get this out there. If you can't afford to take care of yourself, the last thing you need to be doing is being selfish, trying to be in a relationship, trying to feel like you're in love with somebody, making kids based on emotions with no plan, and continue to keep putting these babies in the most effed up situations. Now, is what I said, is that wrong of what I said? Does that hurt somebody's feelings? Somebody in the chat said, put your big girl panties and your big boy drawers on, right? What's wrong with me saying that? I think that's pretty common sense. How many times have I had people in the chat that said, Jay, I ended up in a wild situation. Even though I listened to your channel, I made a mistake too. These are cautionary tales to get people to understand that this shit is real. This is real life. I raise real kids. I am a real father. I am really concerned because this angel couldn't speak for herself nor defend herself against the tyranny of a pedophile and a rapist. That is our job as parents, mothers and fathers. not because we're going to let the system figure it out and we're going to blame the system. We're going to blame the police. We're going to blame the security cameras. We're going to blame the Wi-Fi. We're going to blame the neighborhood. We're going to blame everything except our actions. Yes? That's responsible parenting. So let me get off that. Let me get back to the story. This little girl was left in Cherry's care by the girl's father while he was at work. Defense counsel Peter Conley, a state deputy capital defender, said in court documents that Felix's welfare was investigated seven separate times by the Kansas Department for Children and Families in the year before her death. After a DUI charge against the girl's mother, Conley said DCF informed District Attorney Mike Kage's office that the evidence indicated Felix's mother, Felix, I can't say that word. I can't even get it out my mouth. Felix's mother engaged in abuse or neglect of the girl. Sorry about that if I read that wrong. Attorney Mike Kage said evidence indicated Felix's mother engaged in abuse or neglect of the girl. That is hard to read. Sorry. Anyway, the district attorney eventually began child in need of care proceedings, but Felix died before the legal system advanced to the point where she could be placed in state custody and potentially placed in the foster care system. Instead of the promise for safety, Felix was strangled by Cherry, who had endured years of abuse from his mother before placed in the Texas foster care system from age 5 to 18. Conley's filing on behalf of the 27-year-old Cherry says his client had to bear ultimate responsibility for raping and killing Felix, but the case raised important issues. Kansas has multiple opportunities to protect her from the harm that she endured, Conley wrote in a court document. While it's easy and tempting to place all the blame on Michael Cherry, which you should, what's wrong with that? Anybody disagree? What's wrong with blaming this fat, stinking son of a bitch, child rapist, pedophile? What's wrong with blaming everything on him? Everything is his fucking fault. I hate pedophiles, and I just wish all the air in their body would just disappear and not re-enter, and they could just fall where they stand. It's not the way that the world works, but don't blame me for wishing. They said it's easy to place blame on him, but we must also confront a harder truth. The systems designed to protect children failed her, not because they lacked authority, but because they have tolerated that failure. Our systems can save children. We must expect and demand better that they do. Excuse me, whatever. Anyway, he said Felix's murder was entirely avoidable and that multiple moments of intervention were present that could have saved her. A DCF spokesperson did not respond to requests for comment about the defense attorney's court filing and the pending sentencing of Cherry. The document outlining DCF's involvement with, I'm not going to say Felix no more because that's throwing me off. I'm going to say Zoey. Why can't they just call her Zoey? The document outlining DCF's involvement with Zoey, as well as Cherry's own life experience in foster care, was filed by Conley in preparation for sentencing at the Shawnee County District Court hearing scheduled to start Monday. Cherry pled guilty to first-degree felony murder and rape of a child in December, and I want y'all to remember that this baby was 5 years old. Zoey was only 5 years old. Conley requested that Michael Cherry be ordered to serve 2 concurrent 25 to life year sentences. Concurrent. So consecutive concurrent. So together at once. 2 25 to year life sentences in prison. And that result, Cherry would not be eligible for release until after serving a quarter century behind bars. On behalf of the district attorney's office, Kage recommended 2 life sentences for the murder and rape to be served consecutively. I'm going to read that again. Kagi recommended 2 life sentences to be served consecutively. What's wrong with serving it? Do 25 years and then another 25 years. Why do they want him to have 25 together and then him potentially getting out earlier? And I'm going to tell y'all why this is such a dangerous thing. And here's why I don't understand. When it comes to protecting kids, when it comes to protecting our country, it seems like we are more in defense of people who do bad shit in our country. The people who do bad shit, the people who should potentially get the death penalty, don't. People advocate against it when it clearly deems it would be right in this situation, especially when you're talking about children. Now, I'm one of those people that there's some gray area when it comes to adults doing stuff to adults, depending on what it is. But there cannot be any leniency when it comes to kids. And I hope everybody understands where I'm coming from. That is a clear line of demarcation. That is a clear line in the sand that I'm drawing so people don't misunderstand what the hell I'm saying. Well, which side are you on? I literally just told you. I'm on the kid side. Right? There is a point and purpose of the death penalty. When it comes to people who sexually assault children, hurt, murder, or abuse kids, that mentality cannot be fixed. It needs to be punished, and those people need to be thrown away permanently. They are a danger to any and all kids. Have y'all not heard about all of these situations where these people who don't have the same moral compass? And what's up, Tila? Good to see you back in the chat. Have you guys not heard me talk about how these people been just ramrodding coming over here from other countries, from just all over the world, just flooding our country, but they don't have the same moral compass as we have here as they do from the countries that they come from. And then you wonder why they're out here snatching up kids, out here trafficking kids, out here raping these kids. And then you're just like, well, why is this happening? Why are these people doing these things? They need some rehab. No, they don't. Need to get the hell up out of here, need to be deported, they need to be in prison, they need to be put to death, in my opinion. It needs to be punished. It can't be fixed. You can't read enough books. You can't get enough schooling. You're just a sick, nasty son of a bitch, and it can't be fixed. So you need as much time in prison. So if you have to choose between concurrent, which is all at the same time, or consecutive sentences, why would you not go with the one that is clearly going to give him more time in prison? You finish 25, you get a son of a bitch another 25 years. Right or wrong? Tell me in the chat, what do y'all think? Is that right or wrong? Y'all are saying that's right? You agree? 25, then 25. No, let's put those together. Let's sandwich them together so they can run at the same time. Why? For what? What does he need some leniency for? He had a rough childhood. Well, his rough childhood has led him to be a person that can't be fixed. He does not deserve another chance in our society. He does not deserve another chance around kids. Would y'all trust him around y'all kids? If you wouldn't, see, and that's the thing about people who make these type of decisions. I want y'all to hear me well on this. And thank you, Mrs. Alicia, for showing some big time love over there in Cash App if you're listening. Thank you, dear. Thank you very much. Let me say this. The reason why these people do this is because it doesn't affect their kids. It doesn't affect their relatives. It doesn't affect their high dollar ass neighborhoods. They are not living next to homeless encampments. They are not watching homeless people walking all around the street and have nowhere to go and have no help, and watching homeless veterans walking around that can't, and watching illegal aliens come into our country and get help, but yet our veterans can't get no help. That doesn't affect them. Maybe they don't have no military in their family. Maybe they don't give a damn. It doesn't matter to them because it doesn't affect the minority, the microcosm. It affects us, the larger majority. Do y'all hear what I'm saying? It could be your kid. It could be your son. It could be your daughter. And don't think it won't happen to your boys. Have y'all not seen me show videos where they out here kidnapping little boys in front of their black parents? Y'all seen that, right? On camera, in public, daytime, they don't give a damn. This is what we're truly facing. And y'all need to be careful because y'all are the ones that vote. And if you don't vote, y'all need to have y'all asses out there voting. You need to get educated about who the hell you're voting for and what's really going on in our country. As much as people want to bitch and complain about the president, at least now we don't have a bunch of people who are going unvetted, unchecked, and snatching up all of the benefits that should be going to people who actually need it, and stop that in its tracks. If nothing else, complain about whatever you want to. That was a problem in itself, and that problem needed to stop, and it seemed like only one person took it serious enough to stop it. Now, is this situation related to that? No, it's not. We gonna get political over here from time to time because I see a large amount of problems going on. Does everybody understand where I'm coming from? Said Leo season, he's on fire. That's right. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. All of these things are a problem. As a father, I see all of these things being an issue. I'm raising a daughter. You be damned if you think that I'm not going to stand up and take a stand for my daughter and what I feel like would make her life safer, her life better. What if she decides to have a family? Do I not want her family to be protected by the same laws and same thing that's going on with us, right? If this man somehow affected my family, and thank goodness he didn't because he probably wouldn't have made it to court. I'm not telling nobody to do anything, but I understand when those situations happen. But would I not feel some type of way if this happened to my kid? I would want those people gone. The only way that you could do that is through the legal system. You have the opportunity to choose between one of two things: concurrent or consecutive. One after another or together. You give that FAT SOB as much time in prison as possible. He can't be fixed. He's done. He don't deserve a second chance. There ain't enough books that he can read. There ain't enough education he can get. There ain't enough blessings in the world, in the Bible, that God can give him that will ever give him an opportunity to make him a better person. He's done. He's cooked. Hopefully everybody understands where I'm coming from. Now, I'm going to cut that. I'm going to clip that and repost that. That was pretty powerful. That would create a minimum 50-year term in prison, see, before consideration for parole. That's better. I like 50 years over 25. If released from the Kansas Department of Corrections in the future, Cherry would be subject to civil commitment at a state psychiatric hospital under Kansas laws applied to sexually violent predators. Thank you very much for showing some love in the super chat. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Conley's supplement to the court record said that it said it was an open. Why do they write it like this? I can't read stuff like this. It messes with my eyes. An open secret that those former foster children abused and neglected become the majority of defendants and victims in our legal system. That's numbers wise not even possible. When the majority of kids that end up in these situations, that end up in prison, that end up getting all this time in prison, usually come from just single-parent households with no structure. That doesn't mean that they're coming out of the foster system, because if they were in the foster system and the foster system can't even handle what it already has, then that means you would have roughly about, what, 80%, 75, 80% of these kids growing up in the system. That doesn't even make any sense. If you want me to make a shirt like that, China, I will make one. Hashtag I'm with Jay. I will do it. I will make the logo. Promise you that. Says the majority of them are people who come from abused, neglected, foster child situations. And I just don't believe that's true. So I'm going to skip all of that because I think it's bull crap. Anyway, y'all can read that on kansasreflector.com. Despite four cases raising questions about Felix's well-being, Connolly's filing said DCF records didn't indicate whether the state agency sought to confirm the father's ability to care for Zoey. In May of 2023, DCF received a report that indicated Zoey's father had been evicted from his home and the girl was back in the care of her mother, who had been released from jail on a DUI. So this baby was failed from the jump. Was doomed from the beginning. Released from jail on a DUI charge and placed on probation. At that point, in June of 2023, DCF issued a finding of lack of supervision regarding Zoey. That was apparently shared with the district attorney's office, but child in need of care proceedings were not immediately initiated. The district attorney subsequently launched that proceeding on Zoey's behalf to determine whether she was abused, neglected, or otherwise unsafe. DCF continued to give a score of 9 out of 10 on the lasting safety scale applied to Felix, the court documents said. How does that even make any sense? Where are the family members? That's a great question. Appreciate that. Great question. Where are the family members? DCF, again, was notified in August of 2023, 2 months before Zoey's death. And that's such a beautiful little angel. Let me go back to her picture because I love to have her face up here. Beautiful little angel. 2 months before her death, that the girl was living with her mother in a house with no running water. The report said that the girl did not have shoes, was wearing the same clothes every day, and was outside around the neighborhood for hours at a time. DCF sent an investigator to the house 7 times in September, but nobody was ever home. The case was closed. I don't understand why they closed the case just because somebody didn't come to the door or you didn't catch somebody when they were there. That doesn't make any sense. Case closed. That doesn't make any sense. In fact, he wrote that Zoey was now relying on her father for parental care and was closer to falling victim to Cherry at the homeless encampment. So this next article, let me see, talks about the shame. Said Kansas residents should be ashamed of the failures that contributed to Zoey's death. That is a long article. The tragedy is not just the way in which Zoey died, but in the years denied her. Those years will now be presumably spent in prison by Cherry, who will receive consecutive sentences for rape and murder and will serve at least 50 years before he is eligible for parole. So consecutive, one after another. So there you go. That's wonderful. That's exactly what it deserves. Let me give you guys the fair usage. And sorry, I'm not going to read no more articles from that website because it is a tongue twister and I hate messing stuff up when I read it. So here we go.
Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without the authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use. It is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 U.S.C. 107.
Guys who are in the chat, can y'all type and let me know where y'all are watching from? Or if nothing else, do me a favor and please click the thumbs up. We want to have 1 thumb up for everybody watching. I beg of you. That's all you got to do. If you're able to donate, cool. If not, it's fine. Just hit that thumbs up and share this video so we got the proper justice, which is consecutive 25-year sentences.
The homeless man accused of killing and raping 5-year-old Zoey Felix could soon learn his fate. Tomorrow, Michael Cherry is expected to appear in court for a plea deal. It's still unclear what that plea agreement is. Now, Cherry pleaded not guilty to capital murder and rape charges last year. The case sparked major outrage among the Topeka community. Zoey was living with her father at a campsite after they were both kicked out of the house by her mom. Now, Cherry was also at one point living with Zoey. Her death has resulted in change to the DCF's policy, and an error prevented the agency from learning about her living situation. 27 News will continue to follow this story as it unfolds in court, and you can get the latest breaking news on that decision by downloading our free 27 News app. It's available in the App Store.
News at 6 this Monday. The man who pleaded guilty to the rape and murder of 5-year-old Zoey Felix back in 2023 was back in court today for sentencing. 13's Victoria Cassell is following the case live at the Shawnee County Courthouse tonight.
David, Michael Cherry was originally charged with capital murder for Zoey Felix's October 2023 death, but pleaded guilty to first-degree murder and rape. Now the defense is looking to seek clemency. Now, 5 witnesses took the stand this morning, including responding Topeka police officers, detectives, and nurses. 2 more witnesses took the stand after a brief recess this afternoon, including the forensic pathologist that performed Zoey's autopsy and one of her paras from her school. Now, autopsy findings revealed Zoey's cause of death to be a homicide by unspecified means of sexual assault. That forensic pathologist says that those wounds were very significant and horrendous. Now, that pathologist also says Zoey could have died from the pain, bleeding, or asphyxiation. The Department of Children and Families was supposed to testify on behalf of the defense on how and why the court system failed both Cherry and Felix, but did not appear in court today. The defense is now looking to seek clemency for Cherry. Some of those in Zoey's life say Cherry needs to be held accountable.
I'm hoping that the judge sees the severity of it, I guess, and just having that this never happens again, that he's put away. I know that our system is broken, and I know that a lot of people in this case should be held accountable, but he's the one who took her life.
And Melissa, a judge is not allowing video cameras inside of the courtroom. Cherry faces a life sentence on each of those charges, and a judge must decide if those terms will be served at the same time or consecutively, which would put his parole eligibility after 50 years. Rather than 25 years. The hearing is set to resume at 9 a.m. tomorrow. And of course, we'll have more details on the story tonight at 10. Melissa.
The man who pleaded guilty to the 2023 rape and murder of 5-year-old Zoey Felix has been sentenced for his crimes. 13's Claire Decatur is live from the Shawnee County Courthouse with the very latest. Claire?
Yeah, Jared, we're just now leaving the courtroom where Michael Cherry was sentenced to consecutive life sentences in the rape and murder of 5-year-old Zoey Felix. We just got talking to families outside here who both said that this is not justice still. They both said they think he still deserves the death penalty, but because of his medical background, that was not the case for this. Today, 2 doctors took the stand talking about different things in his childhood, trauma, abuse that led up to these actions that happened when he was 26. Now, ultimately, the judge made the decision to give him the consecutive life sentences, and this happened just around 11:30 today, but we'll have more tonight at 5 and 6 on WIBW.
All right, 13's Claire.
If y'all are watching, please hit that thumbs up. Try to make it to where everybody can see there's one thumb up for everybody watching. Please hit that thumbs up. Here we go.
She was the most innocent, sweet girl that you could ever meet. She brought light to my life. She was my motivation, and that was taken away from me from that day. When my daughter was brought to me, I just didn't know what to think. I broke down. I really did. It really hurts me. And my own child was just killed.
The man responsible for these crimes awaits his fate tonight. Thanks for watching 27 News at 10. I'm David George. We're continuing to follow the sentencing of Michael Cherry. He's pled guilty now to the rape and murder of 5-year-old Zoey Felix in 2023, Topeka's deadliest year on record. And Zoey's dad is speaking for the first time since that horrific day when he found his daughter raped and killed. Video not allowed in court today, but we were able to share photos of the suspect for the first time since he was arrested, and prosecutors brought in several witnesses today revealing gruesome details about Zoey's body and how it was found. The nurse examiner saying it was the most extensive trauma she's ever seen, and the wounds were so bad that she says even a nurse had to leave because she couldn't continue working anymore after seeing how bad it was. We saw body cam video from that day where Cherry had his shirt off and officers arrived. They could see blood on his belly. He also admitted to lying about what happened to Zoey, eventually admitting that he raped and killed her after intense questioning. And some neighbors we've spoken with have questioned where the state was in all of this and whether they did enough to prevent this from happening. 27 News anchor Rebecca Chung asked Zoey's father for his thoughts.
You think there are some failures on the state side as well, how this was handled from law enforcement to the state. I know that this has also prompted some changes at the state level.
Me, honestly, the state does what it can. I mean, majority of the CPS calls what they have sent them, and everybody keeps saying the CPS or the structure failed. No, it didn't. They did their job. Majority of the time they came in, I wasn't even present, but the times that they were present, I made sure that there was light. She has food. They came in, they investigated it, and they seen there was nothing wrong. If they would have found something wrong, they would have taken her down right there and then.
Or is there anything that you wanted to clarify that you haven't seen out there yet?
No, honestly, there's really not. I mean, people can say whatever they want. They can say they were part of Zoey's life, or they did what they can, or they did the best they can for her. But in reality, I mean, nobody did anything. I struggled, yes, it was my fault, you know what I mean, about the camps and all that stuff. But I tried to do the best what I can for my daughter.
Tonight, the defense is seeking clemency, painting Cherry and Zoey Felix as products of a failed system, citing failures with DCF in both Texas and Kansas to get them the help they need. Shortly after Zoey Felix's death, the Kansas Department of Children and Families released its history with the 5-year-old, and the summary report shows her family declined state-offered services several times. According to DCF, the agency investigated Zoey's living situation a total of 9 times, and you can read that timeline at ksnt.com. And 27 News previously spoke with neighbors where the victim lived, and they told us the state was not doing enough. One told us that Felix would come to her house often, asking for food and water. Neighbors told us also in the weeks leading up to her death, there was no running water, and she would roam the streets unsupervised. They also told us that Felix's mother kicked her out of their home, along with a teenage sister and father, and Zoey and her dad were living in a homeless camp when the child was raped and murdered. Prosecutors dismissed capital murder charges last year, so Cherry will not get the death penalty, but Zoey's father is hoping that he gets the maximum sentence. The hearing continues later this week, and we'll learn about Michael Cherry's fate, so make sure to download the
Rape and murder of a little girl unfolded today in a Shawnee County courtroom. The man who pleaded guilty to the crimes was sentenced. 13's Claire Decatur was there, and Claire, a lot of emotion today.
Yeah, Melissa, 27-year-old Michael Cherry confessed to raping and killing 5-year-old Zoey Felix October 2nd, 2023. He was living alongside Zoey and her father in a homeless camp near Southeast 28th in California. Today, he was officially sentenced for first-degree murder and rape, but her family says nothing will bring their Zoey back. Marked on their hearts forever.
I remember she'd always sit on my lap and she'd sit there and spell out her name.
Zoey Felix is remembered by her joy and smile.
I need to live for my daughter. I need to do things and cherish my daughter's memories.
A Shawnee County judge handed Zoey Felix killer Michael Cherry 2 consecutive life sentences Tuesday, with no parole for at least 50 years. Calling the crime vile and inhumane, the judge said Cherry's sentence cannot be shortened or modified, nor can he receive credit for good behavior. Zoey's father says it's not enough for what the family's lost.
He took something from me, and it's just really devastating to know that I won't be able to see another birthday, another Christmas, or anything like that. It took the privilege from me being a father.
I think the thing that I'm going to miss the most is watching her get the chance to become an aunt to my future kids.
Before the sentence was handed down, 2 medical experts testified for the defense. They say Cherry endured trauma and abuse as a child in the foster care system. One of them told 13 News she hadn't seen Cherry since he was 5 years old, and that's who she saw in the courtroom.
He was a scared, very bruised and injured child, And I came here because I saw in reviewing the records that the system had failed him.
But District Attorney Mike Kage told the judge the rape and murder of a 5-year-old girl demands the highest penalty.
Only reason I did not pursue the death penalty in this case is because legally I was not allowed to. If that had been there, we would have pursued the death penalty.
Kage called the case the most emotionally difficult he's ever seen.
This is absolutely heartbreaking, and there's no way around that. It was from the start.
Hey, shout out to Dot. I see you, bro. Let me say this real quick. Did y'all notice how many people were trying to create excuses by saying he had a rough childhood? They took the death penalty off the table. They were trying to get him concurrent sentences. You know, it's funny. Yeah, it says stop showing the dad. I agree. I thought about just skipping his whole interview, but I wanted other people to see it, to know that when they say, where's the biological father? Well, he actually did do an interview. But why does it seem like people work so hard to make sure that what this man did, which is vile, make sure that he has options? What does he need options for? It's just certain people don't deserve options. Certain crimes are worse than others. If you ask me, I know it's not right when it comes to biblical teaching, but some sins, in my humble opinion, are worse than others. In my opinion. Doing this type of stuff to kids, defenseless little kids, is unforgivable. And it just seemed like all these people were trying to fight to give him options, and I don't know why.
It is today. Justice was served, but I don't know anyone who is not affected by this.
Am I content with it? Yes. But do I believe that it was served for my daughter? No. I mean, throughout this whole thing, looking at him, no remorse.
A 5-year-old girl's life was lost. Nothing is going to change that. This is the closest we will reach to justice. It's over. She can finally rest. We can finally heal.
Zoey's case has led to reviews of state child welfare policies and procedures and could lead to further legislation.
So look, I'm going to just tell y'all this. At the end of the day, this is why you always hear about these stories about what inmates do to people like this, because it's just kind of like there really is no correct justice outside of the state taking that person's life under the death penalty, because that's really the only thing that can suffice as a punishment for something like this. To sit there and expect for people to act humane for the next 50 years around somebody like this, you can't expect for prisoners to do that and not feel some type of way, because, you know, it's just everything in your being just tells you that this deserves more punishment than what he got. So, Zoey, young princess, R.I.P. That's going to end this story, and we're going to close this, and probably not going to have to revisit it again. But that is such a beautiful little angel, and she deserved every opportunity to grow up and become something great. So leave a comment in the comment section and let me know what you guys think about us closing out this particular story. It's been a matter of years, and that's the justice we got. So I think the judge got it right. Consecutive, one after another, and they took some additional options off the table, which I think that's right. No time served, no good behavior. You see what I'm saying? All of that other stuff that they might have tried to add on there and help him, he doesn't need any time off of that. Give him every bit of it. But thank you guys for listening to the story.